Welcome to the Pineapple Perspective with Troy Hooper, sponsored by Pepper Lunch Restaurants. Today is a unique and wonderful day. It's many, many years in the making because I've been on his shows, podcasts, mastermind clubs, roundtables, clubhouse rooms. Chef Christian Fischer here has invited me as a guest on many things, and I've been a part of many conversations with him and his cohorts. And today I get to return the favor in a very small fraction of the way by bringing on the master chef, Christian Fischer. Chef, how are you? Good to see you.
Always great being here, and I'm looking forward to connecting with you and sharing a little bit more about what we do with your audience.
Yeah, awesome. Well, you do many, many things, so we're going to try and focus on a couple of those things. But Chef, give us a 30-second, real quick elevator pitch just about who you are and what you've done, where you come from, just a little bit of context. So when I ask you the next couple of questions, the audience knows just enough about you to connect those dots.
I love that. So, as you can tell on my accent, I'm not from the beautiful state of Connecticut. So I'm actually born and raised in Austria. I'm from a small town of 27. I have 5 brothers, 5 sisters. So half the town was my family. I grew up in the hotel industry. My parents owned a hotel all their lives. Started my career at 14. Did an 8-year apprenticeship. I graduated as a butcher, baker, cook, and server, and started a side project and started my first restaurant at 19. I had 6 by the time I was 23. A company named Nestle came and offered me to buy out my restaurant concept, to bring it to the US as one of the concepts for their hotel chain. Offered me a job for 20 years, worked with them for 18. And from there, at the time, they asked me to move back to Brazil and or to Austria. Had already a wife and had one of my adopted children at the time, and there was not an opportunity for me to go back. So we stayed here, and one of my customers was Compass Group, and they offered me a job, and I was the chief culinary officer for them for 18 years. And then COVID happened. And at COVID, I always had side hustle. I started my first thing, oh my God, back in 2006. I had 900 numbers. Then I had gas stations. We owned magazine franchises. We did a little bit of everything. And during COVID, I went all in on my side hustles and built Fisher Research Group, which is our overarching company, which owns 9 companies underneath. And we have 8 companies we have partnerships with. And now we became an investing firm and operation firm and have clients all over the world.
Like I said, just a couple of things. So cool. Now we have a little context about where you've come from, where you're at. You only held a couple small jobs there. And you only made Master Chef at like the youngest ever in Austria or something. And now you just juggling
I was
a handful of balls.
Second youngest.
Yeah. Crazy. All right. So now with that context, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. The first one we ask everybody at the outset is, what does hospitality mean to you?
That's a really good question. And for me, it's actually really simple. Is providing a welcoming environment where people feel valued and cared for. Simple as that. And provide memorable experience. I always tell my staff, we're not in hospitality, we architects of memories. And that's what we do. So for me, it's as simple as that. We provide an environment where people feel valued and cared for. And we do this by memorable experiences. Simple as that. That's what hospitality means to me.
I love it. That's why we're good buddies and well aligned on many things, because that's what I would say too, I think, if I had the opportunity to answer that question that same way. Well, that's great. So this might be an overly obvious question, but it might not be. So take your I grew up in a hotel and I grew up in restaurants mind out for just a moment. Take that hat off for just a moment and tell me how you really came to that belief. I know that is a big part of that comes from that environment, but what are the recipes? What were the instances in life that helped you form that belief system of what you believe hospitality is?
That's a really good question. And so I was told the great story is how I opened up first restaurant at 19, a few years later I had 20. At 23, I had 6. And reality is, like you, I'm a product of a single dad. My mom passed away as I was 6, so I don't remember my mom. She passed away at birth complications at my youngest sister. So that's, what made me. And my dad said, hey, you need to go into hospitality because you need to take over the hotel. I didn't want to take over the hotel because I seen the strain it put on the family. We were busy in the wintertime because we were a winter hotel, and we struggled in the summertime. I knew exactly when to ask my dad for gifts because if I ask him at Christmas, he gives me anything. If I ask it, in the summertime where he had to pay for 180, 200 employees and no money coming in, the answer was a lot different. And then in 1984, I drive home my motorcycle. In Austria, you can drive a motorcycle before you can drive a car. So I drive home my motorcycle. I spent a good day with my, at the time, girlfriend. Stop at literally the last light before the hotel. Light turns green. I take off. I look to the right. The guy comes and takes me out. He ran a red light. Broke my second vertebrae. Have, plastic bones in my hand. Wake up, with the full body in an upper cast, hands like this. In the hospital for a month. On my drive home from the hospital, a good friend of mine, an EMD driver, drives me home. And, didn't put a seatbelt on because I couldn't fit it. 2 miles from the hospital, a drunk driver hits us straight on. I flew out the window, coma for 10 days, hospital for 14 months. And doing the revocation, had to learn how to walk again, talk again. And in Austria, everybody's union. And I will never, this guy Manfred came, said, I'm representing the Austrian government. You have a choice to make. You are 65% handicapped because of the injuries you sustained. You will not be able to work again in Austria because you're considered handicapped. Do you want to sign up and retire at 18? Or do you want to walk away from all of it? And I walked away from all of it. And for me, there was the decision saying, hey, what's going to happen with me being 18 years old, not working and retiring? I can't do that. I couldn't work for anybody because I was handicapped 60%. People wouldn't hire me. I need to start my own restaurant. And for me, the whole philosophy, burn the boat to conquer the island. I had no boats to burn. This was it. That was the only thing I had. That or retire at 18. And so I needed to make it work. And I was lucky to make it work. And at the time, I was the first restaurant which had a salad bar. The salad bar wasn't because I was so genius. The salad bar was because I couldn't get staff. And so the meal came from the front. We had the salad bar up front. And that's how it became. And we had one, then we had two, and then I had a semi-partner said, hey, I have 3 other restaurants. Can you convert it over to your concept? I didn't know what that meant. At the time I was 20 years old. I was like, I don't know what that means, taking it over. So handshake, I took over his 3. And then by that, he was a 50% partner. So we need to get him out. So we bought him out, worked really hard 2 years later, which was the last year. So we had, 5 at the time. I always wanted to be in this one hotel, being on the bottom. And I always envisioned that I want to do that. And I had a really good friend come to me and said, hey, the new restaurant manager is looking for a new concept. Do you want to go in as a semi-lease? I was like, what the fuck does mean semi-lease? I don't know. I don't know. And he says, oh, it's really simple. You need to buy the products through them. You can run it. And the end of the day, they take 25 cents of every dollar you make. I was like, I don't care, I do it. And they changed everything because one of the Nestle guys stayed in that hotel. And as I opened it up, we were open, and I never forget the day the guy came. The guy came from Switzerland, and he says, oh, who are you? I said, oh, I'm the chef here, I'm working. He says, oh, this is really awesome. You need to come to Switzerland. I'm Austrian. We better skiers than Swiss, making jokes, bantering back and forth. And he said, can I speak to the owner? I said, I am the owner. And he says, what? And he said, have you ever thought about coming to America? I don't even speak English. How would I do that? And he made the offer twofold. They bought me out. They offered me a job for 20 years. And rather than getting paid on the tail end, they put it in a pension for me. best decision I ever made. And that decision wasn't, again, because I was so genius. It was because that guy believed more in me than I believed in myself. And that's how this whole thing started. And that's where hospitality came for me. And hospitality for me always was, we need to bring together, because food is the great equalizer. And it doesn't matter what background you have, what your circumstances are. Food is what brings people together, and therefore creating the environment. And when you eat just to eat, you do food a disservice. For me, when you eat, you want to create memories, and memories on how the dish was made, who the person is to the left of me and the person to me on the right of me. And my dad always taught me, if you ever go to a restaurant, do two things: be polite to the staff. The second thing is, make sure you talk 15 minutes to the person to the right and the 15 minutes to the person to the left. And that became my life philosophy. And then it's as simple as that. So that's the real story, which is not as nice as saying first restaurant at 19, six at 23, and then selling out. There were some struggles for that. And it wasn't just the struggles for me. The hardest thing for me was, and my biggest problem was me, getting out of my own way, knowing that I couldn't do certain things I wanted to do. I certainly didn't want to take over my parents' business. So for me, it became, how can I surround myself and work with people which do what that guy from Switzerland did for me? And it became a life philosophy that I wouldn't work for anybody or do business with anybody if I didn't respect them as a person. And my dad always said to me, and as I was young, I always thought he was out of his mind. Now I quote him. He always said, when you sit down and you interview for somebody, remember three things. You want to live the kind of life that guy has, you want to drive the kind of car that guy has, and you want to live in the kind of house the guy has. If one of the three doesn't line up, don't take the job. And yeah, now I quote him, was the best advice I got from the old man.
Pretty cool, man. Let's talk about now how you take those lessons, those recipes for your mindset around hospitality and giving back and building up others as a business, because really most of the businesses you're partnered in, the business you own, the focus of your time and energy is to help chefs like yourself find other avenues of creating a life. If they're burnt out, if they want out of the kitchen, if they're not happy with the situation they're in. You have a show called the Disruptive Chef Entrepreneur Show. You are monikered as the Disruptive Chef Entrepreneur, the guy who made it from the kitchen to the boardroom and to operations and ownership. So tell me how you take those life lessons, the lessons that have built your hospitality thesis and your actual hospitality thesis of creating memories. How do you apply that in the types of businesses that you own, operate, or direct or lead today?
And it sounds simple, Dan, but during my career and during my life, I was very fortunate, like you. My wife believed more in me than I believed in myself. And she always said, Christian, you need to find a way to channel some of the anger I had because of I said, why me? Why me? And then also how you can leverage that. And for me, what became, I went to a seminar by somebody called Wayne Dyer. And I don't know if people still know him. I went to New York City to Wayne Dyer. And, as a typical chef, I was 15 minutes late. And as I walked in, they did some meditation session. And the guy says, okay, you need to go up front. I was like, I don't want to go up front. I'm 20 feet from Wayne Dyer. Wayne Dyer says, oh, hello, thanks for coming on time. Oh, no, you're a little bit late. Everybody, can you, Christian, please face the audience? I face the audience. He says, everybody, this is what you look like when you're 20 minutes late. It's like, oh, shit.
Poster child.
But then I was like, I just want to get out of here. But I had then lunch with him, and he said two things for me which changed literally the direction of my life. Number one, he asked me to tell him a story which I did. And he says, remember, Christian, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And for me, at first, I was just thinking it's a clever way of words, but it's really It's with everything. For me, it means taking a step back, taking a breath, and look at it from a different point of view. Also, what he said to me, he says, Christian, are you a good listener? And I said, oh, I'm amazing at listening, you know? And then he says, but do you really listen? And one of the exercises he had us do is when you told me a story that I needed to listen from your perspective. Took a long time to do that. But when you do that, it gives you not just a different perspective, because when I try to listen from the way you tell the story, it changes everything. And even if I don't 100% do it the way it did, it just changes the way the message is being heard and the way the message is being meant, being said. So for me, those two things became life lessons. So now, fast forward, when we do staff, I want to make sure, and that's why I think we both like Gary Vee. My number one job is to make sure that my staff is happy. You know, they can buy whatever they want to buy from the refrigerator. We have food brought in, we feed them, because for me, I know it's a job, and when they come to work, it's work. So I want to make sure they're being taken care of. And the second thing for me is there's no hidden agenda. I leave my office door open all the time. They know exactly what's going on. They hear my conversation, because for me, I think transparency takes down doubt. Transparency, or real transparency, takes down other barriers. I mean, there's conversation I have in private, which when we're not here someplace else. But in general, they understand exactly what's going on. When I'm frustrated, they know about. When I'm excited about something, they know about it. And for me, it is inadvertently what I was taught by Wayne Dyer. I make them listen from my perspective. I also tell them, hey, how are you doing? And then, how are you really doing? And we're doing every night when they leave, what can we do to do better tomorrow than we did today? And for me, it was a long time coming. And for me, like with you, as you do this and you have faith in people, there's always one or two which are going to disappoint you. But in general, people are amazing, and you can do some amazing things with the right people. So we hire for cultural fit, not for skill, because what we do is a learnable skill set. And that's what we've been practicing now for the last 14 years. We hire for cultural fit, because everything else I can teach you. And that's how we manage what we do.
Yeah, I'll give you the flowers on that. I've seen you in a group of people, listen to people talk about the challenge of the week or the goal of the week, and you're listening for what they're really saying, not what they are saying. Because what you say and what you mean, sometimes there's that
Yep.
line in between. There's that gray area in between.
Totally
I think
agreed.
you are
Mm-hmm.
really good at pulling that out and
Yep.
hearing what people are really actually saying when they say something. So that's pretty phenomenal. So let's talk about a couple of things that you do that you're really passionate about. One of the systems or methods that you use to give chefs a light at the end of the tunnel, a path to independence, a path to the next stage of their life outside of the kitchen, is this book club,
Yep.
this book writing system that you've created. And I won't try to quote it exactly, but essentially, you're teaching people how to write, publish, and sell books inside of like 30 days or less. And you've got people that have done multiple books and done published books in 20 days or something. But talk about what that is, why you're doing that, what people are getting from that. What is that? You're doing something, but what you really mean to be doing is something else. And that is the deeper work that happens within that scenario.
It's a really good question. So for me, by default, working for Nestle, I wrote books within Nestle. And for another company, I wrote books. So I co-authored for those companies 14 books. And I always wanted to have a book on my own. I didn't want to have a book so I can say I wrote a book. I wanted to write a book on my own to prove to myself that I can do it. And 90% of people which want to write a book out there, I signed up for a course. I signed up for my first course. It was just so over my head. I did never even started. And I was like, oh, wrong teacher. I need a new teacher. Signed up for another course. The system was so complicated. At least I started, but 2 weeks into it, I was like, oh my God, I'm so overwhelmed. And this is not for me. I signed up for course number 3, and the course number 3 was great. But as I got frustrated with going through it, my wife tells me, what the hell are you doing signing up for other people's courses? You wrote 14 books. You know the thing to do. Why don't you just do it? And I was like, no, I need a teacher. I need a teacher in order to do it right. And then she talked me into it, and I did my first. And it took me 5 years, 6 years. My first book was, the idea of it was I wanted to write a love letter to my country of Austria, and I called the book For the Love of Austria. It's the recipes which made my career. So I'm writing it, and then I'm getting stuck in the self-publishing world, because for me, I didn't want to do with a publisher, because when you work with a publisher, you sign away your rights. I wanted to do more with the book, so I self-published, and self-publishing has come a long way. And then eventually I did the book, I uploaded it, but the last thing didn't click. And then I signed up for another course, and that was probably the most expensive on the time, was $2,000. And he offered one consulting call. And so week 2 into the course, I signed up for the Tom. If you guys know him, his name is Tom Andian. You probably heard of him out of Virginia Beach. So had a call with Tom. And Tom tells me, where are you stuck? It says that my margin is off. Do you bleed? No bleed. No bleed. Okay, good. What I want you to do is, can you click there? Yeah, okay. What is it set? 0.125, what they're saying. He says, okay, here. Move it out to 2. 2.1, 2.2, whatever. Go over 2, okay? I said, sure. He says, yeah, trust me. Now upload it. Done. Accepted. I was like, how the hell did you do that? He says, I was you, and, the whole idea. And it was so much fun, because for me, that's where I realized when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And for me, it was as simple as that. I was like, oh, I can do this. So then I wrote another book, and then I was like, how can I do it even faster? And so our system today is that we can teach you how to write a book from idea to the shelf in 8 weeks. We did 100 days, 8 weeks, 12, So we decided on 8 weeks, 100 days. And so there's really 6 steps in writing a book. There's the step on if you want to do photography, and there's the step of marketing, which takes a little extra time. Otherwise, there's 6 steps. And if you give it a week break in the middle, we figured out that we can get you to get a book done in 8 weeks. If it's 9 weeks, it's still a success. And so we started this back in when was the first one? 2018 or 2019? So yeah, 2009. We're 5 years into it. We have just shy of 400 people which went through the process. Some of them have 7, 8, 9 books on the shelf. First book somebody wrote was in 32 days. It kind of blew me away. And then also we're doing this course 4 times a year. And so what I want to teach my audience is I'm a fairly busy guy. You know what? I write a book with you, because if I can do it, there's no excuse for you. And so I said, what do you want me to write about? And some of the books are jokes, because the audience, might think I wrote the book what they wanted to write about. And so there's another reason I'm doing it. Number one, I want to prove to them if I can do it, they can do it. And the second thing is things progress so quickly. So I learned, every time I do it, I learn something new on how to make the program even better. And now I have somebody who is really good in marketing. He's teaching the marketing course. I have somebody really good in editing. He's teaching. So now my former students are alumni, and they're teaching most of the program for me. But our goal is to have 1 million chefs over the next 10 years being published, because I believe having a book does 3 things for you. Number one, it makes you an overnight expert or subject matter expert around what you want to write about. The second thing a book does, it elevates you. So if you go out and you interview for the same job as somebody else, and you have a book and the other guy has not, having a book is still considered a major accomplishment, and it just elevates and sets you apart from somebody else. And the final thing is, for me, number 3 reason is because a book will expose who you are. And I want you to write a book because you will learn more about yourself writing the book process than you will do with anything else. If you take shortcuts, you will never get the book done. If you procrastinate, you will never get the book done. And so it kind of exposes who you are. And for me, that's the coolest thing about writing a book. And that's our program. 8 weeks, we help you to get a book on the shelf. And we have then a Exceller program around that. We have 3 levels of our program. The first one is you can watch videos and do it. The second one is where you get the videos and you get 8 hours with me. And our final one is you give us just all your crap and we give you back a finished book in 100 days. And that's what we do. And we're doing this for the few reasons that chefs need a cheerleader, and hopefully our programs, our company, what we do, and the message of our organization is becoming exactly that.
So give me, and don't have to use any specifics, but give me some examples of the types of lessons or transformations or inspiration people have gotten from doing that process, coming out the other end. And it may not be selling 1,000 or 10,000 copies of their book, but they took something, and that exercise then gave them the permission or the energy or the inspiration to go do that other thing, which is what they really wanted to be able to do.
Yeah, that's really good. So the 2 most transformative classes are classes 1 and 2. Classes number 1 and 2 is mindset. We learned a long time ago this is more a mind game than anything else. Then that's number 1. Number 2 is where we get really clear what is the book intended to do. Because if it's an educational book, it looks different. If I want to write it because I want to do a fundraiser, if I want to promote my business, if I want to teach my staff, the book looks differently. So getting really clear of what the book is. And then also what we learned with, the almost 400 students we have now is that most of them think too big. So at the first meeting, if you and I would meet and you tell me, hey, I want to write about, I would sit in and say, you know what? You're talking about 3 books, 5 books. Also, the way we consume books are different. The days of the 1,000-page textbooks are gone. Magazine style is what sells currently best, less than 120 pages, and something people can read over the weekends. So if you are really good in getting your ass up in the morning and doing certain things, and you're doing better than any of your friends, you need to write a book about it, because there's 200, 300, 500,000 people which want to learn the same. They want to learn one thing, move on. So the way it changed. And then for us doing this, we have one of our students, which we call our star student. His first book, we said to him, no, this is 7. He says, no, I just want to do it 1 because I want to just teach him all of this. I said, no, you're going to overwhelm him and people never going to open up. So we started out, what do you know the least about? He says, barbecue. I'm passionate about barbecue, know nothing about. You need to write a barbecue book. So he wrote a barbecue book, and he wrote it about New Jersey barbecue. He researched. He's now the New Jersey barbecue guy, a guy which knew nothing about barbecue. He has his own spice brand. He has his own A brands. He has his own tool, made multiple 6 figures on the first book. And then he says, oh, I want to do the same with seafood. Now he is the New Jersey subject matter expert for seafood. And he's doing this, and he has now 7 books out there. And then he wrote some motivational books, and he wrote some other stuff. And he said to me just a few weeks ago that, he says, the money I made off my books over the last 5 years is more than I made my 25 years before as a chef. And so he says, Christian, how dare you ever stop? Do not stop teaching that course. And he is one of the guys now part of our faculty list. So a book it's not about the book, because the average author sells less than 500 copies. And for me, that's not acceptable. So what I learned is that we leverage your book to do so many other things. And, people did 6, 7 figures with our book course and built a new lifestyle around that. And a book can do that for you.
That's amazing. That's really phenomenal. It's definitely a specific and unique way, but it's something that can be taught, learned, and done, and realized. And once it's realized, then the lessons that come from that can inspire you to do other things and grow and come up with new ideas and how to work with that as a tool. Because really, that's what it is, right? A book at the end of the day is just a tool. There's not everybody out there is going to be the next, name a famous author. That's not the goal, right? The goal is that there's a lesson in the process, but also
I love that, because if you look at the 6 best-selling cookbooks in history, none of them were written by chefs. Joy of Cooking, a hobby book, sold 64 million copies. And there's so many other books people never heard of. So It's not about the sale of the book, is what the book does for you. And one other thing we teach around the book is there's one program or one thing we don't offer. We don't offer editing, because for me, I'm really a stickler about editing. We had an editing department, and our number one editor, his name was Henry. Henry just banged them out, but every book I read sounded just like Henry. And if Troy writes a book and he edits it, I know exactly. I was like, Henry, it sounds like you freaking wrote the book. I don't want that. So we don't do that anymore. So because we want to be, even if there's spelling mistakes in it, it doesn't matter, because if you do the book and somebody reads the book and says, oh my God, I can hear Troy saying it to me. That's exactly how Troy says to me. And if Troy holds me to account, that's exactly how he would do it. And if he teaches me something, that's how he does it. That's why we stopped editing, because we wanted the person's writing thing to come through. It's really about them. And we just package it together, and we found a system which works, and we're improving constantly upon that, because we want to make that a good experience for all of our participants.
You're getting me excited. I don't know. Careful. Getting ideas over here. I just need to know, is like in the movies, if there's so many foul languages or something, then there's a rating. Is there an R rating for books? Because if I write a book, I think the title is going to have the word fucking in it. So, it's franchising. It's not very fucking easy,
Yeah. So I think Anthony Bourdain broke that.
Do we have to put a
rule.
disclaimer on the front of my book that says 7,200 F-bombs are in this book? Please be careful.
And there's a few changes coming. So now if you do a book, for an example, on Amazon, they're already asking, is your book being written, laid out, or anything? Have you used AI in doing this? So I see coming is around books that there will be an AI section within Amazon fairly soon.
Yeah. Well, Chef, coming towards the end of our time, I wanted to give you a chance to sort of plug what you're working on, what things you want to bring people into, learn about, invite them to work with you in a variety of ways. What do you want to share? What do you want to have people come check out in regards to your business and what you're offering?
Thank you. That's really awesome. Thank you, Troy. So for number one, you can come to our website, christianjfischer.com. Everything is housed on one site. And there's 3 ways we support people. Number one, we have some operational tools with our GPO and other stuff where we can help people. We have some plant-based products we're doing, and we have some really cool, innovative technology pieces we bring in. Number one, operational support. The second way is we can help them is around not just defining on becoming better versions, not just of themselves and what they want to do. And we do this through our online training programs. We have a platform we call From Chef to Entrepreneur, where we teach people exactly the steps I took to do what I do today. So you don't need to do it 14 years. We can teach it in a very short period of time, hopefully have the same outcome or even succeed in what we do. And the final thing is what we do is with our more business and entrepreneurial side. We always looking for partners to partner within our organization. So if you do something really cool, you have a great idea, come to us. Let us maybe become investors of yours. Let us become business partners of yours. Because one thing what we do is we have a whole consulting side, which is for free, but we want to be paid in equity. So we have this whole vision that we want to create the Netflix of product development. We call it the House of Humans. And we want to launch this in January of next year, where you can come one-stop shop. We do the marketing for you. We do the social media for you. We're creating the product for you. We produce the product for you. We distribute the product to you, because we currently have access to 260,000 restaurants. So we could become a one-stop shop for you to get your idea out into the marketplace. So that's our entrepreneurial side. And that's what we do.
Fantastic. Great stuff. Lots of opportunities. If you have any cool ideas, you're working on cool things, you need some inspiration, you need some motivation, you need some support, Chef Christian Fischer, christianjfischer.com. Very cool. Chef, a couple of questions we like to round the show off with. I kind of make them up as we go along. I'm stuck on a couple of them. I'm stuck on a couple of them right now. So for those who listen to 3 or 4 shows in a row, they'll be the same question, and then I'll change them up at some point. But being a master chef and having a family, you're kind of in your region a little bit. Tell me what one of the best meals you've had in the last 6 months. What was a remarkable meal you had in the last 6 months?
So that's hands down. We went to this inn. It's in Vermont, and they called it a harvest stew, and it was in spring, and it was the most amazing thing because they cooked all of the ingredients separately and put it in and just heat it up and served it. And as they served it, I got this bowl, and it had hay, pine nuts, all kinds of stuff in it. They put the bowl in the middle, and they poured hot water onto the hay and everything else. It kind of blew me away. First, I was like, this is going to be a mess. But as I went over eating the stew, you had the aroma of that earthiness. But the best thing about the stew was it was so simple. But the potatoes were cooked different than the corn. It was cooked different than the carrots in it. It was just, I was like, oh my God, it's such a overwhelming sensory experience. It was absolutely amazing. And I'm a big fan of sourdough bread. And they had fresh homemade sourdough bread with it, which came the little loaf. It came just out of the oven. I was like, I want to live here. And it was probably one of the best meals. Not a Michelin star thing, but it was just really, really well done. Great executed. The atmosphere was amazing, and the staff was just above and beyond.
That's amazing. Along the same lines, if you could have any chef in history cook a meal for you, alive or dead, who would you want to be served a meal by?
Oh my God, this is so amazing. So I worked for Paul Bocuse in France. Most amazing chef. But overall, the best chef I spent a lot of days with was Anthony Bourdain. I want to spend some more time with Anthony Bourdain. Anthony Bourdain and he took me to a restaurant in Manhattan called Le D'Artagnan. We went to Le D'Artagnan. It was this giant wooden table. We were sitting there. Everybody, oh, Anthony Bourdain is here. And then Anthony brought out this schnapps, and he had glasses. And I don't drink, you know that. He had these glasses which were round on the bottom. So when he was filled, he couldn't set it anywhere because he couldn't. So he needed to drink it and put it down upside down. I invited him back, and he did some events for me in colleges. Just the most amazing guy. He was totally off the chart. And if he's probably one of my 3 guys I would love to spend more time with, an amazing human being. So Chef Anthony Bourdain.
Great answer. Last question, because you're the book guy. What's a book we should all be reading? What's on the top of your list right now? What's a book that maybe we're not all tracking and should be paying attention to?
So that's really tough because I just cleaned out my bookshelf. It can't be just one. There's 2. You need to read From Good to Great. And the second, Man's Search of Meaning, Viktor Frankl.
Okay. There's
Is
a new one
one
for
of
me.
the books every time I read it, just talking about it gives me the goosebumps. He talks about being in the concentration camp and how he kind of worked through that, and life's Man's Search for Meaning. Viktor Frankl, one of the most amazing books, very humbling book. So, yeah, it should be on your radar.
Awesome. Well, it's on my radar now. Thank you for that, and hopefully a lot of other people will hear that and check it out. Chef, always a great time to spend with you. Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for your inspiration. Thank you for your hospitality as always, and we look forward to having you back on here and seeing you again out in the field soon.
I really appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity. And as always, I really appreciate you putting our information out there. And thanks for your leadership in the industry. And to our listeners, make sure you follow this guy for everything he does. He's amazing in what he does. So thank you, Troy.
Thank you so much. We'll see you soon. Thank you for listening to The Pineapple Perspective. If you loved today's episode, leave a review and a 5-star rating. I look forward to welcoming you back next time.